how things are you kind of forget that things are back to normal there.
Yeah, like the lifestyle is back to normal, but you can see that economically it has a huge impact. About 1.2 million people will be losing their jobs. That's what's expected, at least by the end of this year, 2020.
Right.
So it's going to be very difficult.
So, and you said that people are kind of throwing parties and just going about their life like
Everywhere.
no big deal, huh?
Yeah, everywhere.
That's so scary. Like here in the United States, we got, a lot of states have locked down. So a lot of them are kind of, they're still in that lockdown pattern. And we have our election coming up, and obviously that plays a big part in this. It's a lot of political games right now. We know we have a virus going on. We know people are dying. It's very serious. But at the same time, we got two parties in an election that are just fighting over who's going to rule the country here. And then you've got, each state is allowed to do its own thing. So here in Oklahoma, we don't have a full lockdown, but we do have in the bigger cities, Oklahoma City and Tulsa, we have mask mandates. So like everywhere in public, you're supposed to wear a mask. Even though they don't enforce it. I mean, they have the mandate in place, but no, you see people walking around and going to work without masks. The numbers here in Tulsa were pretty high for a while in Oklahoma City, but they're highly populated cities, so it makes sense why the numbers would be so high. But it's interesting because there's other states, California, Washington, Oregon, and a couple different states where they are on pretty much kind of a full lockdown. All the businesses are shut down other than grocery stores. And they're still seeing a rise. So it's a little crazy here, but you still have people that are going about their business. You still have people that are working here.
Yeah, I think it's like if you talk about the face mask, it's highly imposed here in the UAE. I mean, for starters, like if you're caught walking around without a face mask, you'll be charged somewhere equivalent to $1,000 US.
Wow.
Yeah, but that's outside in the outdoors. Once
Right.
you're indoors, though, those rules don't apply. So my thing is, the outdoors are actually much safer. There's fresh air. Like
that's kind of how I feel about it. I kind of feel the same way. Like if you're outdoors, why wear a mask? You would think.
It's indoors, that's actually less important than necessary.
Yeah, and that's how I feel, because you're more, when you're indoors, you're more containing it. They have a funny rule here where like you basically, when you want to go to a restaurant, you got to wear your mask. You wear your mask into the restaurant until you're seated at a table, and then you can take your mask off. And it doesn't make any sense to me, because you're basically walking into a room of germs, and then you're going to take your mask off. And I don't know. I think this pandemic is probably at the tail end of it. Hopefully science will show us that a lot of things are overreacting. A lot of things didn't work that they thought worked. And I think that going into this, not knowing too much about the virus, and then just making assumptions on what we're supposed to do, and everybody kind of doing it may have played a good part in saving lives, but it also may have played a part in maybe taking lives.
Definitely, because what happened was, when the whole COVID lockdown started all over the world, it was kind of late. I was in Ethiopia at that time, and I was in a different city, a smaller city. Doesn't have much of the facilities you could be used to in a bigger city.
Yeah.
So while I was there, our country reported the first case of coronavirus, and that state that I was in went on full lockdown.
Wow.
So no going in, no going out. And I was actually stuck there for about 2 months. While I was there, once I was okay with the virus, once I knew that I can take care of myself and leave the house and go around, I started leaving my house and going to small business owners, like small shops, and I saw how much they were struggling. Some people were saying, we'd rather die of corona than see our kids starve to death.
Yes, and there was businesses here that did the same thing. They really felt keeping their business open was more important.
Yeah, no, I think COVID has killed more than the numbers say, and I don't mean like people who are sick and affected by the virus. I'm saying generally through how the economy has affected it. everyone,
Yeah,
especially the small business owners.
I agree. And I actually had a friend, a neighbor of mine that actually took his life over the whole, but he was going through a divorce. So he was already having some depression issues. But at the end of the day, he ended up taking his life in the middle of the pandemic because, it was just a little too much.
Yeah, I've heard so many stories like that.
Yeah. And it's sad, but, I mean, I feel like the response, I feel like, our governments, no matter which country you're in, your government's, obviously entitled to keep you safe and do what it has to do to protect the population. But I feel at the end of the day that maybe some of the measures they took were a little extreme. And I feel like there should have been a better effort, or maybe in the future, learning from this, there should be a better effort for our governments to sustain businesses that basically are producing the commerce and the economies. They should find a better way if they need to shut down for something like this in the future to be able to continue to sustain business owners.
But I'll kind of disagree on what you said. Like, of course, the government's responsibility is to take care of the people. But what I noticed, at least like what I noticed around the world, and including my country, was during the whole COVID time, governments used it as a way to show they're better than another country and get international recognition for how they're taking care of the virus rather than actually looking out for their people.
I would agree. I actually would agree with you on that because we as you know, I mean, we got President Trump here, and as you know, I'm sure around the world everybody has their opinion of President Trump, and because we're in an election, it's become a political thing. It's literally, I guess for lack of a better term, you could say it's become a political weapon. And so, like you said, Trump's used this to say United States has had the best response in the world. And while I agree, he started things as soon as he could early on, and I agree with that. I think there's things he could have done better. And I agree with you where the government shouldn't be sitting there trying to compete with each other on who's got the best response versus they should all be uniting and working together as a global assistance.
Definitely. But I mean, you can never understand politics and why they do what they do. It's just better to respond to their action.
Yeah, correct. I mean, politics, we get into a little bit of that on the show here. And I keep up with it, obviously, but because we're in an election year right now. And
so are we, by the way.
What's that?
So are we. So is Ethiopia. It's election
so you guys have your elections are going on right now too, huh?
Yeah, and there's a lot of disagreements about whether there should be an election or not. It's a lot of problems.
So it sounds like to me that you guys are probably going through similar things than we're seeing here then.
More or less, but I think ours is a little bit more intense because at least in America, everybody is American. Everybody, you don't identify yourself as Californian or New Yorker.
Right. You guys there have different diverse cultures.
Yeah, that's very diverse. And, we already had problems before COVID, but those problems got intensified because of the election.
Right.
And everybody wanted an election, and the government just postponed the election, which was supposed to happen last August because of Corona. And thus other states are refusing to accept the extension.
Right.
And some states even held their own election, their own state election.
Wow.
Against the federal government. Like it's quite crazy.
So would you say, I mean, just would you say that the current government that's in place is good, or are you in support of it's time for change in the areas you're at?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
So here's the thing. Is the current government doing what they're supposed to do? No.
Right.
Definitely not. And do we need change? Of course we do need change. But I don't think there's any other person eligible enough to come and bring that change that we're looking for.
Right.
You can ask for change, you can beg for change when you have someone else in place to take over, but we don't.
Right.
I think the best thing we can do is support the existing government to do its best. And trust me, that's going to be difficult. And the reason why I say this is our current government is a transitional government.
Mm-hmm.
who overthrew the previous government, which happened like I think almost 3 years ago or something. And
Right.
things just got worse. And we have to look at neighboring countries, like what happened in Egypt, although they have recovered quite well from what happened then. We have Tunisia, Libya, Yemen. Like we have all those countries that we need to look for. Everybody asks for change, begs for change, but there needs to be someone who's capable of bringing that change as well. Otherwise, you're going to be left with new greedy people. You get
Right.
rid of the old greedy people, and you have new greedy.
And you get a new greedy person in
Yeah.
place. It seems to me like, and I know it's very difficult, you know, like you just said, I mean, it's very difficult to say like we need someone new, but we need to make sure that who's coming new has new ideas or can do what they're supposed to be doing or
Actually
say they're doing.
capable. Yeah,
That's actually
capable.
capable, yeah. And then at the end of the day, like in our situation here in America, you've got, obviously it's a two-party system. You have Democrat, you have Republican. There is an independent party, but let's be real, they've never stood up or been able to stand up with numbers to be on the ballot, really. So unfortunately here we're stuck dealing with two parties that rule our nation, and they're dominant. And unfortunately, no matter which party is in power, they fail us as a nation. And with you guys, you have such a diverse cultural, you have so many people from so many different backgrounds in one area that to find you guys, what you really would need is a leader who is open-minded to cultural diversity. So you would need somebody who can not only offer the help you guys need and the capabilities you guys need, but you need somebody who's also not just going to side with one culture or the other.
Yeah. And he or she needs to be accepted by everyone as well. Because if it
Right.
comes from one, ethnic tribe, then the other one will just refuse him, not because of him, but because of where he came from, or again,
Right.
where he or she comes from. I'm saying me because we never had a female leader before, but. Yeah.
Right. I find it so strange. Maybe it's just me, but I find it strange that we're in the year 2020, and around the globe we're still having issues with cultural diversity problems. Like we're still having I guess cultures that just can't agree to be okay with somebody else or be okay with their neighbor, or I don't know, maybe it's just maybe the way I was raised or something, but I find it so difficult that people can't get along with other cultures peacefully.
I don't know, it's actually really, it's very pointless. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not encouraging like any type of religious problems or arguments, but at
Yes.
least with religion is a choice.
Right.
It's a choice everybody makes. But with your ethnic group, or where you're born, you're not born American because you wanted to be born American.
Right. You didn't have a choice in that.
You never had a choice in that. You might get an American passport, you might become an American by force, but you're not an American.
Right.
You're not born there. It's the same thing with this. I was not born Ethiopian by choice. It just
Right.
happened.
Yep.
And for me to hate someone else because of where they're born from, or where they're from, or what their ethnic group is, that's my own insanity. Like,
Right. And that's what I tell a lot of people too, for you to hate on somebody else. That's not their personal problem. That's your personal problem and your perspective.
yeah, it's actually it's equivalent to hating someone because they're a girl and a boy. That was not a choice.
Correct.
That's
Biologically, they didn't have a choice at birth.
Exactly.
Yep.
So like hating someone for it's exactly the same thing, at least for me.
Yeah, I would totally agree. I think it's crazy in this world. We really need more peace. Obviously, we need more love. We need people we really need nations and cultures to come together. And I've heard over the years about let's all come together on common ground. And unfortunately, over the decades, nobody's ever really found where that common ground is. And so I think we've just come to a point where we need to accept people for who they are, exactly where they are. So if you're from a certain culture and you do things differently, I need to accept you for what you do and how you do it, instead of trying to find reasons why I don't like what you're doing.
That, and also like we shouldn't be the same.
Correct.
Yeah, like I think that finding a common ground thing is still trying to find a similarity, but why can't you and I get along even though we don't have anything similar?
Right. It's okay to be different.
yeah, it's very okay to be different, and I think it comes down to insecurity and not feeling safe with the other person
Right.
that forces us to want to find something similar, like, in order to like that person. If you're not similar to that person, then you're not gonna like that person. That's where
Right.
we're at now.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird. How do you over here we just heard about that UA peace deal that went on over there. How do you feel about that peace deal? Did that really have any impact over there or no?
Um, to be quite honest with you, I don't feel any way about it.
Okay. I
I'm
was just
very,
curious because we
yeah,
heard about it here. They did the signing of all that over here
yeah,
with I guess UA
yeah,
or I guess it was UE and I think it was Israel and
yeah, UAE and Israel.
and I
Um,
I know there's been warring factors going on there for decades and I keep praying that we get some peace over there in the Middle East or in any of those nations just come to terms with like you're our neighbor, let's just stop this. And not just the governments to do it for the people that are dying, the civilians that are being killed in these wars.
I completely agree. I mean, you can never say, I will never have any bad opinion about people coming into peace.
Yeah.
But I also don't know what this deal really means. I think economically it's going to be very great because some banks are, as far as I heard, and don't call me on it, but
Right.
some banks are trying to offer loan services and enter the UAE market as well. This is what I heard, which is going to be very, very good for the UAE.
That's be
Flags
good.
have already started as well between Israel and UAE, which is also incredible for both countries. And I think this could be a start of creating peace with all the other nations around as well. I
Right.
mean, we
And
can
I
only hope for
and I
the
think
best.
that's really a great thing. I mean, obviously, anytime there's peace or a meeting between two cultures that can find peace, that's a great thing. But I've looked at I've watched these things go on, and obviously, you living in that area, you're more familiar with this stuff than I am. But when you see just innocent civilians, children being their parents being killed in wars and or just children in general being killed, it's just hard. It just crushes my heart to know that people over there can't just live their lives, run their businesses, live in their homes without worrying about gunshots or bombings.
That's actually like the most heartbreaking thing ever. Just
Yeah,
to
it's
watch
just
kids
it's
being
just
born into
scary. I mean, it's got to be
situations.
scary or horrific to even have to think about that.
It's definitely scary because I'm also seeing similar things happening in Ethiopia as well. I mean, because of all the clashes, all the ethnic clashes, people are dying, so many people are being displaced. I think Ethiopia actually had the highest number of in-country displacement in the world
Yeah, see
because
that's so scary.
it's extremely scary. Children are dying, and what's really sad is what children are being brought up into, like what they're watching growing up.
Yes, yeah,
They're not having education that they need. They're not having peaceful life that they need, like, that they even deserve.
correct. They're not getting the resources they truly deserve when they're
Nothing.
born.
And they're growing up with hate as well. So when this kid grows up, he's going to be told stories about how certain type of people, you know, tortured his family, make them suffer. And you think this kid is ever going to have love for those people when he grows up? He'll never have it. You're just gonna create another generation of hatred.
Right, and that's been you and even at your age and my age. I mean, we've watched this as we've grown up. I mean, this has been going on in our world forever, and sadly, what's obviously like you just said, the not having the education to not be able to get educated as a child and be able to actually come to a point in your life as a child or a teenager to see like there's a better way. To be able to make a conscious decision instead of being raised and grown up into violence, where you believe that hate and that's how you're supposed to be. It's sad that we can't get past that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not going to be able to be, and it's not going to be something that will stop as well the way it's going because
Right. You can't.
our generation is making the mistake, and the next generation is going to continue doing the same thing because they don't know any better. And I
Exactly.
don't know when will it stop. Don't
Yeah.
know.
It's
Yep.
scary. It's scary. So what is your goals? What's your goals in the future? I mean, where do you see yourself in say 5, 10 years? What are you really wanting to? I mean, do you have some goals you've set aside or things you're trying to achieve now? Tell us about that.
Well, it's a little bit long, so you'll have to bear with me.
Oh,
But
that's fine. That's fine.
uh, so there's something that happened recently during the Corona time. I told you I was stuck in that small town,
Yeah.
Ethiopia, and once I started leaving the house and going to small business owners and looking around, talking to people, I realized that like those small advices I was giving those business owners was being very helpful to them. And so, like while I was there, I decided to kind of support 5 female business owners
Mm-hmm.
and entrepreneurs. There was one lady who was innovating. She was an innovator. She worked with her hands. She was a mechanical electrical engineer. She was making machineries and robots. And what really got to me was one machine that she did. Like as soon as Corona came, within 15 days, she created a robot that cleans the toilet. And I
Wow.
was so impressed. I know, like I can't get into exact details because she's still on her patent, and I don't want to talk
Right.
about it. I haven't
Right.
asked her permission yet, but that really inspired me and got me thinking. Like this is a small town where they don't get that exposure that even we do in the city or the rest of the world has. And
Right.
if they're able to do this stuff, because there were also other entrepreneurs, like the rest four of them were also doing incredible jobs with the small resources that they had.
Mm-hmm.
Got me thinking that like there could be a lot more people who will benefit from even a small help that you can offer, whether that's financial or just even consulting them.
Right, right. And sometimes that's what it takes is just being a support network. Just giving your experience as you have made your way through business and gotten to the level you are to be able to share that with another smaller person with that's trying to start a business or someone that has a business, but you want to be able to take them to the next level.
Yeah, that's what I did, and the feedback I got, like the results I saw were very like there were a lot more than I expected. So by the time the whole lockdown was over and I went back to the city, I decided to do it properly. I registered a company. I was like, I know what I'm gonna do. This is finance and consultation services for startups and SMEs.
Mm-hmm.
And I started doing that while I was in Ethiopia. And Dubai was also on lockdown during that time, and I didn't stay long in Ethiopia. As soon as Dubai opened, I came straight here. Once I came here, I started meeting more people, and I found out that there are actually a lot more people who can benefit from this as well. Even in Dubai, you'll think they have all the resources, everything they need to start their business. People were still struggling.
Right.
So yeah, so now I have a platform where I'm helping people from Africa and the rest of the world as well
Very cool.
through consultation. But my goal is to allow, because in Africa we have two different types of people. We have it to the extreme. We have young people and even older people who have money that they don't know what to do with.
Right.
I mean, the wealth distribution is quite insane. So you have extremely rich people and you have extremely poor people.
Mm-hmm.
And the rich people don't really know what to do with their money. Like they don't know where to invest it or
Right.
to even give back and how can it to like contribute into
Right.
helping someone else.
Yeah.
So my goal is to create an angel investment group for Africans so that they can actually invest in African startups as well, in
That would
SMEs.
that would be huge.
Yeah. So I'm actually working on that, and I hope that can work.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So if So let's say like a 10-year vision. So you could probably, between just using your ideas you just discussed, you could probably be a consultant to be able to help businesses succeed. You could probably be at a point where you could get this angel investment type thing going, and probably be able to potentially help communities that maybe need the help, but don't know how to get the resources, as well as putting, like you said, maybe putting rich people's, teaching them where to invest money in areas where they're getting their investment back, but at the same time they're also helping their local community and commerce.
Yes.
Yeah, that's huge. And I think we need, again, we need more of that. When you have basically, like you said, you have a poor class and you have a rich class, you don't really have a middle class. And unfortunately, the middle class tends to be where everybody in the poor class is trying to get to. But if there isn't one, and there's nobody investing in the poor or the communities that the poor are in, then they just remain poor.
Yeah, and the biggest challenge, I think, is right now they don't know how to connect, and they don't know about each other as well. So
Right.
if you go to like the remote areas, they will never think there's someone out there that can help them. They're not even in that environment.
Yeah, they just think they were born into something and they can't get away from it.
Yeah. And then when you go to the other side, there are some people who are oblivious and that will actually, how can I say it? Disagree with you that Africa is even a poor continent.
Right.
That's how life is treating them. That's how good life is for them. And
yep.
I don't know. It's like, as I said, everything is to the extreme.
Yeah. So and we hear all the time about, in the media and stuff, about equal rights and people being, people getting equal treatment and stuff. And I guess at some point, like you said, when you grow up rich, or you grow up where you have money, your parents raise you in a culture that's not, you don't really hang around with poor people. You don't really know about poor, what the lifestyle is. And then on the flip side, the poor people don't really have time to hang out with the rich people either. It does create kind of a void where, like you said, a rich person may not believe his country is poor or has poor because he's never been around it. And then the poor people will never know what getting out of a poor situation is, because they don't have those opportunities, because they don't have them in their communities either.
Yeah, and our system is actually designed to separate the two as well and keep them in different lanes. For example, if you go to school, you have public school and private school. Those two kids will never meet each other. If you go to transportation, you have fancy cars and public transportation.
Right.
They'll never cross paths. Like it's if you think about the whole system, at least the way it is in countries like Ethiopia, there's no chance for those two to get together or to even sit on the same table.
And it almost sounds like there's a need. It almost sounds like maybe there's a need for, say, like a nonprofit organization, or maybe just an organization in general, whether it's for profit or not, maybe to create a situation where there is just kind of a situation where maybe the kids from the public schools and the kids from the private schools, maybe there's an organization that can bring them together maybe once a month, or start doing community projects where the kids get to meet each other and they get to become friends and know each other through an organization that helps support that. Maybe that's what's needed in there.
I think if there were any type of organizations or programs like that, it would actually be very good, because it's going to benefit both. Number one, for the rich kids, it's going to teach them to be humble and learn about how fortunate they are.
Right.
Because they don't know what the other side looks like. And also for the poor kids, they'll have hope one day that their lives could be better, their lives could be changed. And I think the biggest problem, and I will say almost in the whole of Africa, would be people never look back. Not everybody was born rich, of course. Some people will pass all the struggles, they'll make it, and they never go back.
Right.
They don't even go back to show up. If that makes sense. And
at places where they're from.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and that's another one of those where, I talk about a lot of my life and some of my past history on the show a little here and there, but I've been down some pretty rough roads, and I've gone through some pretty rough times in my life and low points. And, you know, I always try to help other people now, in the position I'm in now. I try to reach down and help people come up, because I was at one time in a position where I needed help, and there was people that actually reached out and helped me. And I remember them. And I remember being in a place where I thought there was no help and no hope, and I wasn't going to get out of a situation I was in. And somebody did reach out. And like you said, people that don't look back at where they come from, they're really kind of doing a disservice to themselves, but they're also doing a disservice to the people that they left behind, who deserve the same opportunity, who deserve an equal opportunity to be able to live life like on that level, or even a step further from that level.
Yeah, I think what people actually forget is, for you, for me, for anybody at any position where they're comfortable, to be where they are, there was someone you don't know that contributed the tiniest bit that allowed you to be where you are today.
Exactly, for sure.
Yeah, and I think we all forget that. Like, I mean, it's actually, it's crazy.
Yeah, it is. And it, you know, what it does for me these days, the older I get, what it does for me when I reflect on stuff like this, is it makes me want to A, get involved in more things that can help. And B, it makes me want to be a better person. And it also makes me makes me look in the mirror more at what legacy am I leaving behind? What are the things I'm doing today? What are the things I'm doing today, every hour of today, or every hour of tomorrow, that I'm going to plan, that are going to leave a legacy behind, not just about me, but for somebody else that I could contribute to helping.
And somebody else you don't even know, and who won't even know you.
Most important to help a stranger. Most important to help someone that never knew I could help them, and they don't even need to know I helped them.
Yeah, because I think the problem right now in the world with helping, whether it's through those NGO programs, by the way, which I'm so completely against. I've seen a couple of NGOs, and I'm like I've seen them from the receiving end.
Right.
It's so disappointing.
Yep.
But yeah, well, I wouldn't want to get into that.
Yeah, there's some of those organizations that they say they're doing something and they don't, and what they do is they give a bad name to the people that really are trying to help.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So whether it's NGOs or philanthropists or anything, they're trying to do something in which they get the recognition, or I guess like
they get credit for it.
They get not just they get credit for it, but they get something out of it very quickly.
Right.
So there's that like instant gratification.
Right.
Everybody wants it to be done quickly. Everybody wants it to be, known. Like, everybody wants everything to be done very, very quickly. Yes. Nobody thinks about the future. What's going to happen? What's your actions today going to? How's it going to help 10 years from now? 20 years from now?
Right. I mean, it's one thing to go help one child in the community one day, but what does that one day help if there's a way you can help that child in the future?
Yeah, I mean, instead of feeding a whole community, help one kid go to school.
Yep.
You'll make much bigger difference like that. But of course, you're not going to take a picture of it and post it on Instagram. So
the people that do it, the people that do it for social status or for ego, I guess. It's sad to see that. I hate seeing that. I'm like I said, I'm happier knowing that I can just, whether it be just a smile, holding a door, giving somebody a compliment. If I'm going to drive through somewhere, I pay for the meal behind me. And if I pay for the meal behind me, the person behind me doesn't even know who I am, and I drive off. And so it's not about getting the recognition for me. It's about, was I able to bring a smile to somebody's face that may have been depressed? Am I able to hold a door or compliment somebody who then will go home and maybe treat themselves better, treat their spouse better, or treat their kids better? Because of my gesture, right? Because of the small gesture I did. Is there somebody who's contemplating killing themselves or committing suicide? And it maybe my break in a conversation with them or a compliment or a smile was enough for that to deter their thoughts, and they don't kill themselves today. Those are the things I try to be more impactful in the moment. And I hope that the things I do, my gestures I do to be impactful in the moment, also help impact their lives as a whole. And maybe even, like you said, in the future, maybe my impact would change their dynamic perception. And maybe in the future, they would start thinking different ways, or think maybe there's hope because one person was nice to me today.
Exactly. And then you can even inspire them to be nicer to other people. It's going to have like a ripple effect that
yeah, and that's what I hope.
Give credit to, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I hope. I mean, it starts with me, me at the store with one person being nice, and that person maybe that day, because I was nice to them, is nice to two other people, and then slowly the community that I live in becomes a better place.
Yeah. But as I was saying earlier, like, about the whole looking back and going back to help your community, one thing that I found very disappointing, at least in the whole Ethiopian culture, and the reason why I'm so into the whole women in business topic is when I started working, I'm young, I'm a girl, and I'm working for my father. Like,
right.
Earning my position, getting respected or taken seriously was the hardest thing. It took about, I don't know, maybe at least 2 years.
Yeah. Yep.
And I was always trying to reach out to, women entrepreneurs, Ethiopian women entrepreneurs who made it, who are successful. I can honestly tell you there was only one positive feedback that I got from all the women I reached. So I'm not gonna say I'm very confident, but I'm not afraid to go and reach out to people. Like I reached out to you.
Right.
Whatever way I can, if I'm gonna text you on social media, or if I see you somewhere, like if I think I want to talk to you, I'm gonna reach out to you. And I did that aggressively over and over again. And there was only one positive feedback that I got. It was only one lady. The rest of them were not even willing to give me a minute of their day. And I don't know. I think that's why I'm so interested in the whole women in business thing, because I don't want to be that person that I hated at that moment.
Yeah, and it's like you said, you reached out to me through this app that I use to find different guests. I got a lot of people that reach out to me on that app, and I had reached out to a few people as well. And when you found me, I was like, yeah, let's do this. This would be great. And the way I look at it is, first off, I wanted to meet you and know who you are and what you're about. And then, I can look at your profile and I can read what you have written there, that you've written on there. But to talk to somebody personally, across the world, and what they're going through and the struggles they have to get to the point of being successful. And then talking to you now over this interview, hearing how you're looking at the world and your perspective on that side of the world. And I'm over here in the United States looking at things. But at the end of the day, we're both kind of viewing things where we see where there's needed change, but we're also seeing where we can help. And just by us talking and meeting and then sharing this with the audience, I feel like we can make an impact on somebody, even one person that hears the podcast interview. Maybe we're that one person or that one woman who's struggling with what you struggled with. Maybe it's just enough to hear this and hear your voice and hear where you were. Maybe that one woman will step up and her career will move forward because of it, and she'll have the confidence to move forward.
Well, I hope so.
That's how I look at things. I mean, there's a reason. There's always a reason, no matter whether you're religious or you believe in God or whatever you may believe in. There's always a reason for connections, I believe, and there's always a purpose for it, and the purposes behind those things we may never know, but it's always. I always say that the reason things get put together, good or bad, is for good. So even when you have a bad day and something goes wrong, or you get in an argument with somebody, there's always something good that's coming out of that. Whether it's a learning experience or whether it's being able to communicate or learn how to communicate with somebody who's difficult. So it really, to me, I hope this reaches somebody and it can help them. But I really appreciate the conversation, and it's really been great talking to you. And I hope to have you on the show in the future. We can, we'll check back in with each other and see where we're at in a little while, 6 months, a year, kind of see where things are at.
Yeah, definitely. I hope to talk to you soon as well.
For sure. Well, I'm going to get off here. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get off here. I've got another interview right behind you, but you have all my contact info, and I will reach out to you when we're all done.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. And please do send me that pre-workout thing that you told me about.
I will. Is there anything you'd like to share with the audience? Is there a website or anything you'd like to share before we go?
I mean, you can share my email address. You
Okay.
can reach me there. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
That's about it.
All right. Well, then I'm going to wrap it up.